Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Port of Tallinn webinar. My name is Marko Raid. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Port of Tallinn, and today I'm here with Valdo Kalm, who is the CEO and Chairman of the Management Board. Today we will present the first quarter 2021 results. On the upper right-hand side of the screen, you have a question mark, and by pressing that, you have an opportunity also to present questions in written form. You can do that throughout the presentation, but we will address the questions after the presentation. And with this, I will give floor to Valdo.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to start with Q1 main events, and we all know that there is now 1 year pandemic valid, and of course it's influencing our business also. We will come back to the influences of that, but on positive side, in Q1 we got the 10-year agreement with the state for the next period for the Botnica. We won the tender, and also we got the invitation for this summer charter in Canada, also for Botnica. That means that we will have quite stable prognosis for the Botnica business. Then in Q1 we opened the parking house in D terminal area. It's in operation already, and we made from management board the dividend proposal to the council, and of course it's up to general meeting to approve it, but the proposal is there. Also some more softer issues, but very important issues. We published our greenhouse or CO2 gas emission. Now we know very precisely our emission in all our ports, and of course we have action plan how to reduce that by our activities, but also by operators' activities. Then first action is that we signed agreement with Estonian Energy for green electricity for all the port facilities. Then we got claim from Tallink that was announced also in a stock. Then we prolonged or extended Guldar Kivros management board member contract in TS Laevad. And there is new member in our nomination committee, Merike Saks, who came the Chancellor of Finance Minister. Also for us, it was very pleasure to got Nasdaq Baltic Award for the best investor relations for last year. That's big honor in such a difficult times. But trends in Q1 by business segments. On passenger side, we all face second wave of restrictions, and that shows definite decline in passenger numbers. Although cargo doing, I would call it very well. Growth in volumes almost 10%, and it's important that it comes from different cargo types. We have also a nice increase on dry bulk, around 40% even, and in Ro-Ro also 15-16%, and we had 6% more vessels in our harbors in Q1. Ferry business is very stable, and also under the other we basically see Botnica's business. But then we have to report the impacts from COVID, and of course we see still a strong downturn on passenger side, although Ro-Ro keeps Ro-Pax vessels moving. On cargo side, continuous growth. If we talk about prognosis, then we hope that will continue. And now we have more different cargos showing their growth numbers. Therefore, we are quite optimists on that. And actually on ferry and under the other, we don't see any major financial impact these businesses showing, and in our prognosis we see them as a stable businesses. That means that investments will continue. Of course, there is always important to follow the cost. Just to mention, in Q1 we managed to decrease costs some 5% from last year. That's definitely the topic, efficiency and good cooperation with our partners, institutions, to prepare mainly on passenger business to high season, how to find the safe ways, and of course safeguard of employees. Very briefly about the numbers, just remind you, passenger business down more than 70%, and cargo up 10%. As we mentioned, it comes on Q1 mainly from Ro-Ro and dry bulk. Liquid bulk shows stable or slight decrease. On shipping, ferry is showing from last year, again, quite stable numbers, although passengers are down, but the ships doing the same number of routes, and on Botnica side, the utilization rate is also stable. Now to the financials.
Okay. Thank you, Valdo.
You're welcome.
The revenue picture, of course, reflects the same as in volumes. We had almost about 3 million euros decrease in revenues. That is coming from the passengers segment, and that's due to the decline in passenger numbers and also decrease in the frequency of some of the passenger vessel visits. This -3 million then continues to adjusted EBITDA and operating profit. However, there is one important remark to make, that in first quarter 2020 we had 1.6 million of one-off items, which was sale of Paljassaare harbor assets, and this is distorting the picture. So if we take this out, then we actually have managed by 1.4 million to cut also costs. Of course, it does not compensate for the full revenue decline, but to half of it almost. On the bottom, we have investments, and as said before, last year for us was quite heavy in terms of investment volume. This year will be slightly softer, and we also see in the first quarter that investments have declined by 5 million euros. By business segments, it's visible here that the first item, passenger harbors, this is where most of the revenue decline took place. Almost 3 million euros as the overall impact on the revenues. We can see cargo harbors a little bit increasing revenues due to the volume increase. Ferry and other, in terms of revenue, are quite stable. The ferry segment a little bit has been impacted also by the fact that this year we had restrictions throughout the entire first quarter, as last year only middle of March was impacted. And when we look at adjusted EBITDA, of course, on the passenger harbors, the decline is highest due to decrease of revenues. In the cargo harbors, we also have a decline, but if we take out the 1.6 million of extra income we had last year, then we have a quite good growth also in the cargo harbors on EBITDA level. The ferry segment, as we had a colder winter and a bit lower revenues due to lower prices, had a slight drop in EBITDA. And going forward, as we I think said in the last time in the seminar, this year we will have some maintenance work on all the 4 ferries, maintenance of the engines. So we will have a slightly higher cost this year going forward on the ferry segment. On the other segment, EBITDA change has been maybe percentage-wise the biggest and positive. This comes from 2 factors. Botnica last year had some repair costs in the first quarter, which we did not have at such volume this year. And we also show here the Green Marine, which is a subsidiary entity dealing in waste handling. And last year they had a loss for the first quarter. This year they are breaking even, so they have managed to increase their revenues and have worked on the cost. So those, both the Botnica repairs and better results of Green Marine, have impacted the other segments' EBITDA positively. Cash flow statement basically reflects the same. Operating activities cash flow has decreased due to revenues decrease. Cash used in investing activities is lower, but as said, last year also the cash inflow from the sale of assets impacted this item. So the drop in investments is bigger than the change in cash used in investing activities. Free cash flow has decreased by 2.7 million, still leaving us with quite a good 10 plus million at hand. And the cash used in financing activities has basically stayed the same. So the net cash flow is 7 million compared to 9.4 for the last quarter. And net debt at the end of the period has increased a little bit. That is due to the change in the free cash balance at the bank, which has a little bit decreased, as last year we were preparing also for the higher investment volume and had bigger cash balance. And on financial position, compared to the year-end figures, not much has changed. Cash balance has a little bit increased, and gross debt has decreased due to the payback of some loans and bonds. Then at the end we have some quarterly figures on revenue generation and EBITDA generation segment-wise, which you can browse later if you're interested. And with that, we will conclude our comments on the first quarter and go to a Q&A session. We will give you some minutes to use the question mark icon under which you can present your written question and address those in 2-3 minutes time. Thank you. Okay, we'll start with the questions that were presented up front via email. And I give the floor to Valdo for the first ones.
First question sounds like a few quarters ago there was a mention of increasing Belarusian cargo flows. What is the current situation on this respect? Right, with the Belarusian cargo, what is liquid bulk, situation is up to now quite stable. As we earlier mentioned, we never know the long-term outlook for that, but today's situation is stable, although there are some political aspects and of course there is heavy competition between Baltic ports. Please comment on the summer season outlook for passenger traffic to Sweden and cruise traffic in general. About Sweden and maybe a couple of words about Finland. We as a port preparing heavily for high season together with operators, of course, and our best guess is that there will be more passengers, hopefully, in the end of June, beginning of July, not earlier. If we go to Sweden, then I guess it's big question mark. Maybe we will see the passenger flow from Sweden even later. About the cruise. Also, we have very good cooperation with cruise companies. We hope that there will be liners, cruises on the second half of the year or second half of the summer. Not so much in June. And we see the bookings, we see the big interest, mainly of European cruising companies, but it's really difficult to give the prognosis. It's really up to pandemic figures and of course the regulations. But yeah, we hope that second half of the summer we will see liners here.
Maybe just to comment what is making difficult for the cruise vessels to make any estimates is that they are visiting different countries when they make the trip, and of course all those restrictions and requirements are different, and when each government will decide to lift certain restrictions is quite hard to estimate. So we do see that there is high interest on the cruise operator side, but it boils down to how efficiently then all together we are able to make this happen. So we'll take next question. Would be interesting to get your best guess for when travel restrictions will be lifted for people with vaccination passport.
We really hope that will happen during the June or end June, not early, definitely. And extremely important is to have that in with Finland. As I already mentioned, with Sweden, I am not so optimistic.
Okay, next question concerns liquid bulk. How do you see cargo volumes developing moving forward this year, especially considering liquid bulk volumes?
Already we also mentioned that applies and still valid that visibility is not so good on liquid bulk. We still see this business as project based, lot of tenders, lot of competition. Therefore, we would like to keep such a low profile on that. But what is good that we see that our dry bulk and then the ro-ro picking up and showing good growth numbers.
Yeah, maybe we can say that it's not getting easier with liquid bulk, definitely. We see that the competition is tighter and there is continuous price pressure as well in terms to win the tenders.
Right.
So moving forward for the real estate, perhaps you can say something about the progress of the detailed plan for the real estate in Tallinn Port.
We can say some important movements, and as we mentioned before, that our strategy is to start and build our own main business infrastructure buildings. That's the terminals, bridge, but then next phase is traffic solutions, and on that we are in a very final phase to set finally with city government the tram line to old city port area. That's the basis. After that we can plan other traffic solutions, I mean the cars and travelers, and then step by step move to the real estate development, where we're moving also with not all the areas. We will have now the tactics step by step. We have 5 areas on the old city harbour, and we're talking more about the south part, what is closer to the Rusalka area. And then of course it depends on market situation in real estate. When is the right thing to have a tenders and invite the developers?
Okay, thank you, Valdo. Currently, it looks we don't have any additional questions. If you have any, you are more than welcome to follow up by sending us an email. But otherwise, this presentation you saw today and the webinar recording will be made available in a stock announcement link, but also will be available on our website later on. So we thank you for the questions and thank you for your time in joining the webinar, and see you next time.
Thank you.